Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Joevember Joy sweeping through West Texas. The Red Raiders bumped against the wall, but said, if you ain't seen me, Chaz, you ain't seen bouncing back.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks as always to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. And if you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, basking in the glow. Have had a few hours to marinate on it now. Basking in the glow of bowl eligibility. I'd like to think we both have a sheen about us as we kick off this week. Hair softer, teeth whiter, the weather's better in West Texas when you know you got one on the other side. And we've got plenty of time with you this week. Happy Thanksgiving out there, to get ready for the Longhorns, but also still thinking about what went down Saturday night at Jones Stadium. And really, Chris, what has gone down as far as some developing trends in the Joey McGuire era, because it's not just Happy Thanksgiving anymore. It's Happy Joevember. And we are feeling that Joevember joy here today. As reeling off the win on Saturday night means a seventh consecutive in this month, which is your longest stretch since 92 through 94-ish. And, you know, there's one kind of November feeling we felt before that included a win, but it might have been Weber State on the other sideline. This was not Big 12 action we were talking about. I like this a lot better. And, yeah, it's a little more than a trend, right? You have been a part of a team that has kind of seemed to improve as the season has gone on, and that always seems like a symptom of a team that is, dare I say, well coached or well motivated. I don't know, but it's something you want to see in every team you're rooting for.
6-1 in November, is that right? And I think the only November the 5th a year ago, and the only loss you had after sitting on the runway for 9 hours, you lose to a team that plays for the national championship. Otherwise, you've won all of them. That includes a win over Oklahoma. That includes over a win in Lawrence, Kansas last weekend. I mean, some one-score games in that mix. But it is fun to finish a season strong. And that had been an Achilles heel for this program for many, many years, is start off hot, can't sustain it. I mean, even in one of Cliff Kingsbury's best years, it was a 7-0 start, and then just kind of you limp to the finish line before winning a bowl game versus Arizona State. But you look up, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you're sitting there at 3-5, and now all of a sudden you're 6-5 and bowl eligible, and they've all been one-score games. I think you're doing it in a variety of different ways: red zone defense, special teams, running the football, quarterback starting to make a few plays here and there, taking better care of the ball. But I do think, and different guys stepping up, because the injuries haven't necessarily gone away or anything like that. Because, I mean, over the weekend, Calvin, when you're sitting there thinking about all the speed that we had talked about, and you don't have arguably your fastest player on your football team in Tyler Owens, you're like, well, this sucks. I mean, this is like the one guy, on the edge that with Plumlee or with Harvey or whoever you were dealing with, and you move – Tyler Owens, you had moved him up close to the line of scrimmage at that star position, and then he can't play. But it was Brendan Jordan and Cam Watts playing that position. But you just kind of have found a way, and I think that's what's fun about these Novembers, because last year it was all the quarterback injuries, but Tyler Shuck was just kind of inching his way back, and then he was healthy. And then you kind of rode him to the finish line, literally. Baron Morton, same thing. You kind of get dinged up. You have the Kansas State issue, the BYU issue, but he finally comes back, and now he's kind of getting better as the year goes along. And I think that's a direct correlation with some of your November runs here. But it's just fun to finish strong. because even if you can't go get it done in Austin on the weekend, you're still going to have a winning record in November. You punch your ticket to extend your season. And a couple other things, Cowan, too, that I think is fun. One of the finishing strong, so your November record. How about look at your overall home record since Joey McGuire took over? Because that was bring the fun back to the Jones and so many home game disappointments. Joey's 10-3 at home in his short tenure here. And I think you lost, let's see. So Kansas State this year, which is still in the hunt for the Big 12 title. Baylor last year was favored to win the Big 12 title last year. Oregon is in the hunt for the national championship in the college football playoff this year. Those are your only 3 home losses. Other than that, you've taken care of business. And every game was sold out this year. Every game was sold out, and there wasn't an OU or a Texas on the schedule. I think that says a lot too. But the fun is back in Jones AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, that seemed like one of the first steps you needed to take as a program to restoring something as far as any momentum or relevancy was figuring it out on your home turf. And that's another trend that has continued, obviously, this season. And I don't know, what do you really attribute it to? You've watched a lot of football. You have followed as closely as anyone the ebbs and flows of a season for a football team inside the locker room and out. I said well coached or well motivated, but what are other characteristics or traits that you think teams typically have if they get better as a season goes along? Because it seemingly is one that special teams will exhibit.
I mean, I don't want to overthink this. I think Joey and his guys deserve a ton of credit here for keeping the ship afloat and keeping them motivated, keeping these guys grinding, keeping it pointed in the right direction when we've just seen it before where body language is bad, teams kind of shut it down, they feel sorry for themselves, whatever. But I think it was anything but that heading into last week's game, heading into the Central Florida game. I say last week's game is in Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, it's been just and watching young guys step up and like play to the standard or play to the level, and some of when the older guys go down or whatever it may be, and just figuring out a way. I'll tell you what else I think, especially this year. There's been so many years where it is very popular to be like, our special teams are so bad. Our special teams are terrible. Our special teams don't. Your special teams this year, while, Kenny Perry would tell you, we're far from perfect. We screw up all the time. Boy, are they good.
They're difference makers.
Absolutely they are. Like on Saturday, yes, does your backup punt returner – X White, does he field a punt like at the 1 or even almost in his own end zone? And does Kenny Perry, and Kenny Perry spiked his headset and was like, dang. He said a lot more than that, but
hey, you want to know what the guy behind me said? At least you can tell he's not afraid. And that is a quote. And I had to give him that. So shout out to Xavier White for not being afraid.
but the return game in this one, Dre McCray with a long run. I thought Nehemiah Martinez also had a long one. They called it, they flagged it. But, UCF was kicking it different at different places because they were afraid of Dre McCray and what he would do. I even heard Gus Malzahn after the game say he's one of the best in the league as far as kickoff returns. Heavy praise from Coach Malzahn there. Gino Garcia,
let's talk about the boots.
51-yarder, man. And then Reese Burkhart banging him into the end zone. I mean, Kenny Perry went and found Reese Burkhart from UAB in the offseason just because they didn't feel like Gino was, maybe as good as they would prefer from a kickoff standpoint. So they go find a guy that just kicks it out of the back of the end zone every time. And it's like it eliminates that play. So there is no Dre McCray going on the other side. They just take that out of the equation. And then Gino Garcia, man, 51-yarder, just banged it. I mean, just awesome. And these are some meaningful field goals that he's kicked in the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah,
with a lot on the line, and you needed it, kind of stuff. And 51-yarder with a bit of breeze in his face, never a doubt. And I just think that has been something that has come along here that has helped you, especially in recent weeks, because you want to win close games, man. It's like and I knew that they felt that way coming into this one. Okay, their offense is a nightmare. Our defense is going to have a hard time. we're also, again, is the rushing defense for UCF, is it like the Ollie Gordon one, or is it the rest of the season? And we kind of saw a bit of both, and then you just leaned on them and ran away. But they really felt like they had an advantage of special teams. I thought they took advantage of it. Blocked an extra point. I don't want to bury the lead here. I mean, but all those things, like you won that phase of the game, and I thought that you won that phase last weekend as well. And I think there's a direct correlation into you winning some of these close games and how good your special teams has been.
As we documented yesterday, also used some possum power to rattle them on another field goal attempt. And can't forget Austin McNamara. I thought game-changing in the way that he was able to flip the field. And on one of them, Central Florida's lucky they're near a sideline, because that was about to be a Texas Tech takeaway. When old boy biffed it, he had some help there from the west sideline. But yeah,
how can I sit here as always and talk special teams and forget to mention Austin McNamara?
Because we take it for granted.
Yeah, shame on me.
He's so great, we take it for granted. That's exactly why. I get it. He
is money. Saw his dad before the game yesterday on the field. Thanked you and I for talking about Austin and throughout the year. He, we were talking about the next level, and he's like, it's really hard. But man, if I'm betting on anything, I'm betting on that kid to be a success at the next level. I mean, there's just no doubt.
I thought he had some of the best of the season last night.
Fitting, very fitting. Yep, I think very fitting, yes.
What month is it? Joevember. There's your reminder. All right, Chris, let me take you specifically to a point in the game that I'd like to get your take on, because this is another trend, as we've kind of listed some off here, resiliency that we've seen from the Red Raiders, whether within a season or within a game. And boy, is that a flipped script from some prior administrations to Coach McGuire's arrival. You're getting some tight games. You're not winning some of those. You're down and you are out. That's not what you want to see actually playing out. Unintentional rhyme master in the building with us here today. But let me take you early on in the game. We barely even gotten settled in with popcorn and a Coke. It's 14-0 Central Florida, and not just any 14-0, Chris. It was kind of like a painful pulling of teeth. Not only the first drive, but you go 70 on 11 plays over 5 minutes on the second one. It was becoming a bit disheartening early on, but obviously Texas Tech was not disheartened. So what are you feeling down there as you roam the sidelines? And there's a vibe that's sitting there, but obviously Texas Tech is setting out to change that vibe. What did you think at that point in time? Did you see shell shock? Did you see anger? What were you seeing? First, today's episode brought to you by Listening.com, an incredible app that turns academic reading into audio. So if you're a student but also an audiobook person, this is especially for you. But not just you. This is for anyone that hates paper cuts. The Listening.com app will take any academic paper, PDF, or class material and turn it into an audiobook. It can read math equations, technical words, even complicated documents, all while knowing what to pick up and what to skip, like citations or footnotes. And best of all, if you go to listening.com/lockedon, you'll be able to try it all for 3 weeks completely free. Normally only a free 2-week trial, but if you use our link, listening.com/lockedon, you got it all to try for 3 weeks at no cost to you. This is the hack the paper cut lobby doesn't want you to know about. So try it out totally free at listening.com/lockedon. Again, that's a free 3-week trial at listening.com/lockedon. What did you think at that point in time? Did you see shell shock? Did you see anger? What were you seeing?
Really neither, which is, I think when you're down 14-0 and you'd move the ball well, but you just come up empty on your fourth downs. And if that pass isn't batted down, it's a touchdown on the 1 4th down. I mean, you had Baylor Cupp wide open. I mean, it was a good route concept. The DB kind of took I think it was maybe Sparkman that was kind of running to the back of the end zone, but Baylor Cupp is underneath and he's wide open. But again, the pass gets batted down. So I think there was, still a level of, hey, it's a long game. And you always want a fast start. But I think to Joey's credit, his teams and his staff, and they kind of figure the game, out as it goes a little bit at times. Again, you always want to come out. You'd love to be the one that puts up 14 quick points and have a fast start and then kind of ride it. But that's not what happened over the weekend. And I thought Tim's group settled down. They adjusted to a nightmare that was Plumlee. I thought you still, because it was pretty clear Central Florida came into this game and like, hey man, Tahj Brooks, not today. So they kind of really showed, and like let's see how healthy Baron Morton's arm is, or let's see what they can do with some receivers that haven't made a ton of plays for you consistently over the year. And so you kind of had to throw it a little bit, but again, you figured it out. But once you're down 14-0, you look up and you'd scored 21 unanswered, and you take the lead. Now the running game's back into the equation, and then you've thrown it enough to where now it's loosened up a bit. Now UCF doesn't know what to expect, and that was I actually talked to him going up the tunnel after the game was over. I couldn't. It was dark, and David Gibbs was running down the tunnel, and we spoke for just a brief second, and he was one of your previous defensive coordinators. But I thought they were kind of, that side of the ball for Central Florida was a bit on their heels, a bit trying to figure out, okay, what is going to happen here, and then to take the ball though with 5.5 minutes left. Everybody in the stadium knows exactly what's about to happen. And for you to just lean on the Knights like you did, there's not a better feeling in the world than that right there. And you're popping off 5 to 8 yards a carry. And again, everybody knows what's coming, and they just couldn't stop it. I think 8 of 9 plays on that drive, you handed it to Taj Brooks. And then you line up in the victory formation, the best formation in football, especially when you're the one implementing it. But that right there, because you you talked about how long we've been paying attention to this program. There's been many, many years where you're not capable of doing that. You can't get it done, or the opposition stops you, whatever it may be. And you just kind of flexed on the Knights a bit, and you didn't overthink it. And credit to Taj and that old line, man. They just leaned on them, and the Knights broke. And then we all, the gun goes off. It's zeros, and you win, and you're bowl eligible. The end.
Well, that's the note I wanted to finish on before we get out of here, because we're not quite done with Tahj Brooks just yet. A couple of games to go, but I'm already beginning to wonder. You see the names there on the screen, Chris, and I know you weren't there for all of them. The Golden Palomino may be an exception. Anderson, Gray, Hanspart, Hadnot, Henderson, Morris, Washington. Just some I chose over the years, and I know I'm leaving some out. But Tahj Brooks is going to be mentioned among these names. Great Red Raider ball carriers in program history, and I'm excited to see what he's got left to do still here in his time as a Red Raider. But call me crazy. I think he's already in this class. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and you can spice up the action and keep the sports flames stoked this winter with America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. There's nothing nicer than cuddling up with a warm prop bet or player parlay. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action with their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where it's all at your fingertips. And of course, when you win with FanDuel, you're always paid instantly. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's right. That's $150 coming your way if your team wins. You'd be a fool to not take a bite out of that. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today for your shot at $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet that hits. With FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Call me crazy. I think he's already in this class.
I would agree. I think where you'll look at some of these guys compared to Tahj is that, Tahj shared carries over the years. He was really, showcased in his final year. I think it's funny because I think this, like Sammy Morris right there, the Morris name that you have mentioned on there. But well, I think you probably meant Bam Morris, and I'm saying Sammy. But the reason I say that is because Sammy Morris, who's on the staff now, the reason I'm bringing that name up is that I think that's what Tahj can look at from a pro career. Sammy made a career in the NFL for the Patriots largely. I don't know if he was in the NFL 8 to 12 years. I have to go back and look specifically. But he was kind of the new age NFL back because you could throw it to him. He would pick up a blitz. He had some size to him. And the NFL now loves guys like this. They love the Bijan Robinsons and all that stuff too. But Tahj is just like, what can he not do for at the next level? And I think from a tech standpoint, what is it? It's either 7 of 8 games or 8 of 9 games where he's gone over 100 yards in a row. I think he's scored touchdowns, and I think 7 games in a row, which hasn't happened since Torian did it back in like 04, maybe. I think there was a stretch where somebody scored touchdowns, but it extended over 2 seasons, like the 2010-2011 season, and maybe that was DeAndre, I think. I just think he's in rare air. Yeah. And you've had a lot of the names you have listed there were Doak Walker Award winners. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do that because of Ollie Gordon and his numbers. I just don't know, but I think he'll be in the mix and a finalist, but that says a lot about that young man.
Yeah. The guy that got held to 25 by the same team 7 days ago.
Problem is he ran for 200 plus on like so many games before that. But yeah,
was that in the South Alabama game they lost? I can't remember.
I like it.
Yeah, definitely clear cut, I guess. Ollie, sure. Yeah. Well, still a couple of games left to go.
Yes.
We'll see what Tahj Brooks wants to do to add to that resume, but love to see it. Different era as well. And, I think about a guy like Washington. I think about Brooks. I think about Torian Henderson, who I think is the modern era GOAT ball carrier of Texas Tech football, if you can call him that, because pass catcher became a part of a ball carrier's resume really around that time. But things have changed since some of those names are on the list, to say the least. So credit to anybody who's entering that category. And I don't know, as we entered into a real contemporary era.
Well, here's the exact stat. So I just looked this up just to make sure. The last time a Texas Tech running back scored a rushing touchdown in 7 straight games, it was Eric Stevens over 2010 and 11. So final one season, beginning of the other in 10 and 11. And then the last time that it was done in a single season was Torian in 2004. So if that gives you some historical context of what this kid just pulled off. And the O-line deserves a lot of credit. I think, the quarterbacks, the play calling, all that, checking into these things and all that stuff. But Tahj, he just refuses to be tackled, man. He's just so much fun to watch. And his style of running is so Texas Tech. And what I mean by that is it's so blue collar. It's just so blue collar in that he just kind of refuses to go down, and it's tough yardage, and yet he's very fresh and he just keeps grinding, and you think you have him and then you don't. And the one chunk play that he had last night, or I guess it was 2 nights ago, where he kind of got to the next level and he's got a couple of DBs getting close. Those are runs that are really fun because you haven't seen a lot of those, because the first time he did a lot of that was versus Houston at NRG Stadium to open up a season 2 years ago, I guess it was. And that's when we first learned of the, he starts pointing at his wrist. It's like it's Tahj time. But watch it. It almost made me, leak a little liquid awesome when I'm watching on the sideline Saturday night, and SaRodorick Thompson, after Brooks has a big run, and SaRodorick Thompson is pointing to his wrist. That's sports. That's what we love so much about it. Watching that right there encapsulates it. Just freaking awesome, man.
We're getting a little more of that awesome before it's all said and done. And who knows what the future could hold for Tahj Brooks. We're back on the other side to continue talk Red Raiders, and of course get set for not only football but hoops on the way as well. So there's a whole lot to consider here, Chris, and we'll be with you all the while. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts, so you never miss an episode. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it, Cowan. Busy week, man. Day sports. We got the Red Raiders and the Villanova Wildcats at 1:30 on a Wednesday. We've got a big game Friday night in primetime with the Red Raiders and the Longhorns for the last time. So anyway, we will break it down as the week goes along, man. Appreciate it. Keep hope alive, everybody. And it still is hope. We have it.
This is why you keep it alive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And now we have turkey and dressing to go with it this week. So
let's get recharged and roll on. Austin bound. We'll be with you throughout the week, and hope you'll join us as well for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.